Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Hello and Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Meseches ARACHIN, Daf Chaf Beis. We begin right on top, Tanu-Rabbanon. So this is back to the Mishnah where we learned about the auction process, the advertising process with respect to paying off debts from assets belonging to Yisomim who are youngsters, underage, inherited their estate from their father, who had some outstanding debts, whether to a Baal Chayv, a debtor, a bank who loaned him money, or for the ksuba, the payout of his widow. So we learned that the Chacham instituted a rather lengthy, thorough selling process in order to ensure that they get proper value for their property. Tanu-Rabbanon. So how long exactly is this process? So the Brisa states like this: Shum ha-Yisomim. Shum is the appraisal process of the Yisomim's property. It's a 30-day procedure, Shleishim Yom. V'shum ha-Hegdesh, Shishim Yom. But if it's Hegdesh property being sold, then it's a lengthier process. It's a 60-day process. Divrei Reb Meir. Okay, so according to Reb Meir, Yisomim is 30 days. Rabbi Daimer, he says it's actually longer on both accounts. Shum ha-Yisomim is 60, Shishim Yom. V'shum ha-Hegdesh is 90, Tishim Yom. V'chacham, no, it's consistently across the board. It's always 60. Whether it's Yisomim property or Hegdesh property, it's merely Shishim Yom. Amar Chizda Amar Avimi, so Chizda quotes Avimi, halacha. The way we practice is Shum ha-Yisomim is Shishim Yom. Yosef Rabbi Chia bar Abba. So Rabbi Chia bar Abba was sitting and saying over this halacha from Rabbi Chizda that it's always going to be 60. V'kamal Shmaita is saying over this halacha. Amalei Rav Nachman Yitzchak Rabbi Chia bar Abba. So Rav Nachman Yitzchak turned to me and says, did I hear correctly? Shishim ka'amris? Did you say 60 days? Or Shleishim ka'amris or 30? Amalei says Shishim. I said 60. Which one? Whose property? The Yisomim or the Hegdesh? Amalei the Yisomim. So Yisomim is 60. Whose sheet are you following? Rabbi Meir, who in the Brisa actually said that Yisomim is 30. Or Rabbi Yehuda, or you go like Rabbi Yehuda, who said in the Brisa 60. Amalei says Rabbi Meir. I'm going like Rabbi Meir. How could you be going like Rabbi Meir? Amalei. So he says to him, Rabbi Meir Shleishim ka'amar. What do you mean? In the Brisa, Rabbi Meir clearly says 30, and you're saying 60. Amalei. So he responded, the truth is, I ran into this problem as well with when I quoted Rav Chizda, because really Rav Chizda himself had this issue. So I'm quoting Rav Chizda, who was quoting Avimi, and the truth is Rav Chizda also had this confusion. Amalei Hachi Amar Rav Chizda actually related to me that I was struck down really hard by Avimi when I kept on getting this thing confused. Me Avimi Kufi is like a club, tabi, a big club, it's a whack me. Bali, I absorbed many strikes, Allah the Hashmaita, upon this halacha. So basically he was telling me number 60, according to Rabbi Meir, and I asked him from the Brisa, and he tried to answer it to me. I kept on forgetting, so I was really, absorbing it from him. But the answer was like this. So the way he explained it to me, it's not a contradiction at all. Why are you asking? It's a different story. It's a different calculation. One is speaking about the amount of days, if it's done consecutively. The two systems, two options for auctioneering the property. If you want to do it day after day, Shleishim, it's 30 days in a row. But if you choose to do it incrementally, b'sheni b'chamishi, Monday and Thursday, when the crowd gets together for the bezdin, who's in session, during those days. So if you choose to take that option, b'sheni b'chamishi, then it's shishim. You have to extend it for 60. So since he's not really doing it so many days. It's just, twice a week. So at least you have the longitude, which gives it more time to, get out there and, be internalized. In fact, the Gemara makes a cheshbon. The truth is that although if you will take that calculation and figure out how many days of advertising you have, if it's done Mondays and Thursdays only within a 60-day period, you're going to count the days of auctioneering themselves. The actual days of Achroz, it's only 18 days, Rashi explains, because in 60 days you have 8 weeks. Right? So twice a week gets you 16, and if you start the week, let's say on a Monday, so come, 8 weeks later on a Sunday, it's 8 weeks, so it's 16 days of Achroza, plus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because it's only 56 days, you want to get to 60 days, so you cover another 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so it's another Monday and Thursday, so you get to 18 days of announcement. Well, you have a Tamnei, so you only get to 18 days, but you're making it up with the fact that it's stretched out, given the mashchamasa, since it's extending for a long amount of time, people ultimately will hear it. So it has, same effect. You can either announce 30 days straight or Mondays and Thursdays for a duration of 60. So we speak about how. What's the procedure? What's the auction process in terms of repaying a debt from the Yisrael's property? But the truth is, we don't tend to it. We don't typically get involved in paying off debts from Yisrael's property until they get older and they can figure things out, going through the records and investigating the matter properly when they turn adult. But when they're still youngsters, we typically back off. The reasons being, we'll discuss it later, a couple of reasons given, either because we're concerned that perhaps the father already, completely paid off the debt and took a receipt on it, and it's sitting somewhere in his drawer, which they don't know about. Another pshat is tzrari. Maybe the father gave an advance, bundle of money, advance payment, sort of as a, guarantee for payment, which they don't know about. Another pshat the Gemara says is because the truth is that paying off a debt is really a mitzvah. And these kids are not bar mitzvah, they're not obligated. So for all those reasons, we hesitate to pay off their debts, their father's debts they inherited with his estate, unless there are extenuating circumstances coming up soon in the Gemara. Amar Vidamar Rasi. In general, ein niskaken. Niskaken means we don't get involved with respect to the estate to pay off our debt, unless they're experiencing imminent loss due to the outstanding debt. Elam kain, unless haisa ribis, eichelas bendis ribis, eating away at them. There's an interest loan outstanding, which is just going to chew away at them if they don't pay it up. So we may as well take care of it now. He has another scenario, another exception. That's one. If there's a shtar with ribis, or another situation where they're incurring expense is paying off the ksuba of the widow of the isha, where there is mizones being paid out all the time. The halacha is that until she collects her ksuba, she can stick around and she's supported by the estate. So they're paying her food, right? So that is an ongoing expense. Better pay off the ksuba and save them that money. So according to Rav Asi, for ribis loans only, according to Rav Yechon, for ksubas isha as well. Now, for Rav Asi, my time ksubas isha. Why didn't Rav Asi agree with Rav Yechon that ksubas isha is also a good exception, a good reason to pay off a debt? The answer is because they're not really losing anything. The truth is that just as when the husband is alive, in exchange for the mezainas that he sponsors her, she forwards her masiyah daim, her income that she earns. So likewise, that gets carried over to the kids as well. So although they're sponsoring her food, but she's forwarding her income, her check, monthly checks. So it sort of evens out. But Rechen disagrees. It's not always going to be an equal, matching number. Zim loy safka, sometimes, her masiyah daim is not sufficient to address her expenses, so ultimately they're going to be losing, and that's good enough reason to pay it off. Okay, so in view of this machlekes, let's take a look at all the the mishnayos, the brises which discuss paying off debts, and we'll see how it fits with these two opinions. Not So let's start with our Mishnah, which speaks about the shum, right? The shum HaYisomim, the appraisal system, the auctioneering process of Yisomim's property, is for a duration of Shloshim Yom, Shum Hagdash Shishim Yom, Machrizim Boike Be'erev, right? And we make the announcements twice a day, morning and evening, as we explained. Now, what are we talking about? Who are we paying off? What debt is being addressed? Ilam Bal Chayiv, we're speaking about a guy who lent him money, in which case is interest coming due as well. Mitzayis, why would the guy be willing to cooperate with us and suspend his interest, charges for these 30 days? And if he doesn't, you're basically causing yourself an imminent loss by extending this, lengthening the process. Instead of selling it off right now and paying off you're delaying and costing you more ribbis. Why would you do that? El Pshita B'Chav Yisrael must be a Jewish lender. Well, if he's charging interest, how do we let him? It's the right to charge ribbis. It must be that he's not really charging ribbis. And still the Mishnah says, and we get involved in paying off a debt. So Bishlam Rabbi Yechon, how does this work? So Rabbi Yechon, very good. He learns that the Mishnah is speaking about paying off an Isha's Ksuba, where there is mezainis expenses that you're trying to spare them. El Ravasi, Kasha Kontra Ravasi, that's not enough reason to sell off property, so why are we getting involved here? Amlach Ravasi. So Ravasi responds, Rabbi Yechon Minicha. Even Kontra Rabbi Yechon, how do we understand? Why does that justify this 30-day delay, during which you have to pay out her mezainis, which is a definite expense? So you're paying out something definitely for a chance that perhaps by going through the elaborate, thorough auctioneering process, you'll get a bit of a higher value for the property. Why would you go pay out on account of a doubt? Mishkav Shafkina, why do we ignore mezayni, the mezainis expenses, which is a certain, sure expense that you're paying out daily? V'naktina, we're going to prefer hachraza, taking the long, auctioneering process, which at its very end is not going to guarantee anything. We don't know if we're going to gain from it or not. This could be answered like this. What happened was that she already came to claim her ksuba. She came to the bezin, I'm ready to take my ksuba. Halacha is that her mezainis claim terminates at that point. Because the whole point of mezainis is while you're still in the home, you're in the estate, you're not remarrying. It's an honor of the departed person. So you're entitled to stay on and live off the family. But once you're sort of leaving and taking the ksuba, getting ready to remarry, so then mezainis stops. As per Rav Shmuel, once the Isha petitions for the Ksuba claim in the Bezdin, she no longer is entitled to mezainis. Ask the Gemara, okay, so now we're back to square one. If there's no mezainis expense, so why are we even paying it off? The whole reason to pay it off was to spare ourselves the mezainis expense. If that's the case, she's no longer claiming mezainis. Is the kukulam stakikinillah? So why should we even get involved in trying to pay it off? Says the Gemara, around the reasons like this. It's unfair. Once we got involved, she came to the Bezdin, she claimed the ksuba, we got involved in tending to her case. So we can't just say, okay, fine, you claimed the ksuba, there goes the mezainis, but the ksuba you're not going to get either. No. Once we start the process, we have to complete it. For fairness' sake, we complete the process and we pay off the ksuba. So, very well, according to Rabbi Yechanan, why are we even paying off a debt? We're speaking about a debt of a ksuba, as we explained. But according to Rav Asi, who does not consider that ample reason to pay out the Yisrael's estate. So why are we even paying it off? What's going on? What's the case? We were, selling assets of Yisrael. Truthfully, we're speaking about a Goyish lender who's charging interest, and that's the reason to sell it off, to spare them of the extra interest payment. Now, as to your question, but by delaying it 30 days, you're incurring more interest, was speaking Shekibul Alav. The guy committed himself, he exceeded, he was okay to cooperating with us. Lodem B'din Yisrael, to follow the Yisrael process and wait it out for 30 days and suspend his interest charges during that period. Asked the Gemara if he's willing to go along with our rules. Should never be taking interest. There it says he's not so from. He's okay going along with the auctioneering process and suspending his ribbis, but he's not committed enough to go ahead and forfeit his interest completely. Like he didn't accept upon himself the no interest rule. Tashma, comes another discussion. We have a Mishnah. In Maseches Gittin, actually, whenever we collect from Yisayimim, so if there's a choice of better property and inferior property, we take the inferior. We can't demand more than that. So the inferior property, as per the value of the debt. Now again, what kind of debt are we paying off? Paying a guy, a lender. Why would he listen to us and accept the most inferior quality property? He wouldn't cooperate with that. Ella Peshita B'chav Yisrael must be speaking about a Jewish lender. Okay, so he knows he has to take ziburas. But why is there even interest on the table? If he's charging ribbis, would we allow him to do that? Apparently, interest is not on the table. And still the Mishnah seems to say that we're going to pay him off. So Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, so according to Rabbi Yochanan, very well. We're not speaking about a standard lender. We're speaking about a woman who's claiming her ksuba, and there is mezainis expenses, so that justifies the payout. Elul Rabbi Asi, who says that ksuba isha is not reason enough to do that. Kashi, how do we understand the payout in the Mishnah? Amlach Rabbi Asi. So Rashi responds, according to Rabbi Yochanan, why is it any better? We're paying an isha her ksuba. You're paying ziburas because it's Yisayimim. It sounds like it's an extra halacha unique to Yisayimim. Well, every isha in every ksuba claim only takes from ziburas. That's the established halacha. If it's a ksuba that's being paid out, may ask me, why bother speaking about Yisayimim paying ziburas? It's not unique to Yisayimim. I feel we need today, maybe ziburas, even from the person himself, the husband himself directly. She is only tied to ziburas. That's the halacha. Well, that could be answered simply Rav Meir. We're going to Rav Meir, the Amma, who says that the ksuba collection from the husband himself is actually medium quality property. This is discussed at length in Maseches Gittin. The Amar ksuba sisha bebeinonis, the standard is medium quality. Miyasmi ziburas, but if you collect them, it's ziburas. So that explains, this aspect of the halach. So again, we're paying out an isha, and it's justified because they're being spared the extra mezainis expenses, but that's only according to Rabbi Yochanan. That payout to the ksuba is accepted. But according to Rav Asi, that's not an acceptable reason. Rav Asi kashi, why are we paying it out? Again, truthfully, we're speaking about a lender who lent the father money, and he's a guy charging interest. So we're trying to spare their interest payments. Now, why is he interested? Why is he willing to accept ziburas? He committed himself to the Jewish litigation process. If that's the case, if he's on board, ribis namen lishkol shouldn't be accepting interest, which is forbidden for us. The answer is he's not so committed to the process. He is cooperating regarding the the ziburas issue, but not regarding forfeiting his ribis, his interest, claims. Toshma. So here comes another kasha, which is the brisa we had yesterday. So we're selling off the property, almanas, and we actually inform the potential buyer. You should know the objective here is to pay off a debt. Almanas litin l'isha ksuvas, to pay off the isha or the b'chayv. Okay, b'shleim b'chayv. I understand the second scenario, bein mar or bein mar kedesham. Okay, it works out according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rav Asi, as we explained. We're speaking about a goyish lender who is charging interest, etc., etc. El ksubasa, but the other scenario, paying out a ksuba. Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, that works because that's a good reason to sell off the property. El Rav Asi, who says that paying off a ksuba is not a justification kasher. So how do you explain the brisa? My skin was speaking shechayav moida. It's not a standard situation. We're speaking that the chayav here means the father who owed the money was moida before his passing, before his death. He said, I owe that money. There's no question about the validity of the loan, or the debt, or the ksuba payout. So even Rav Asi would agree in this case, no reason to withhold the money. Because we're going with the opinion that the reason to begin with why we hesitate to get involved is because maybe it was paid out, maybe it wasn't really a legitimate claim. But if he himself conceded, there's no reason not to go forward and pay it off. Now you've discovered this new twist of chayav moida. That could be the answer to all the questions we asked before. All the other cases as well. Can be speaking where he admitted, no reason not to pay it out. Says the Gemara, there was a story about Mareimar. So there was a divorcee, a woman who was claiming her ksuba, and the Yisraelim were the ones who had the property, and he paid it off with their assets. Ravina asked him, we just finished the whole sugya. The only reason why you pay is to avoid ribbis. Rabbi Yechon only adds ksubasisha because of the extra mezainis expense. Rabbi Yechon is only concerned about alba amana, by a widow, the makamasta mezainis, because she's consuming the mezainis, so we're sparing them that expense. Aval grushala, but a divorcee, she's not getting mezainis. So there is no ongoing expense. Why are we paying off this debt from the Yisraelim's property before they, grow up and figure things out? Amar Leisi says like this. We had a different understanding in Rabbi Yechon. According to you, it's based on, economics. No. Amar Lei. We had a different explanation. It was based on the chen concern. Rashi explains, we want to encourage women to marry, lest they think that they'll get, disenfranchised after, when it comes time to collect the ksuba. So we want to go easy with them, accommodate them. And therefore, if it's a ksuba payout, that's outstanding, we pay it off. We pay it off. Even though it's not in the interest of the Yisraelim economically, they're not losing, there's a ksub, there's a grusha, she's not taking mizah. That's not the issue. There's a special takana established. Be easy on the woman, give her the ksuba payout. Omar Rav Nachman, truthfully, Maration, back in the day, lo yavam is the kina, the nichse yasmi. In fact, I would not get involved in paying out the debts of the Yisraelim, because of the reasons we mentioned. But then I changed out of change of heart. Given the Shamar al-Hadar of Huna, once I heard the words of our friend Chavin, our colleague of Huna, says Mishmei, in the name of the Rav, it's very severe. They're holding back things that don't belong to them. Yasmi, the Achli expressed himself harshly, says Yisraelim that consume, that sitting on property and money that's not theirs, the Lav did who? You know what? They deserve following the departed as well. Liz Lubasa Shivkai, let them go after the person who left, meaning it's not a very good thing at the holding back money that belongs to somebody else. And therefore, at that point forward, I changed my whole system as a kakina. I would actually pay out, debts from Yisraelim's estate. Mikor my time. Now, initially, why would you not? And here's the punchline of the whole sugya. Why would you not pay out debts from Yisraelim's property? My time. So we had two reasons. The truth is, paying off a debtor is a mitzvah. Which mitzvah? Rashi in Maseches Ksubas says, Hein shecha tzedek. The pasuk says, Hin tzedek yilacha. Hin is a container, a measurement. It should be, honest, the right measurement. And the Gemara makes a drasha. Hein, your yes, your hein, your word should be tzedek, should be kept and fulfilled. You got to keep your word. You borrowed money, committed to pay it back. Now, of course, obviously, it's more than just that. There's a financial claim. It's his money. Right? So you're doing two things. You're paying back the person's money, and you're actually doing a mitzvah by doing so, by keeping your word. So regarding Yisraelim, although their estate has a lien on it, so to speak, there's a shibud there on account of the father's death. So in fact, when they grow up and they become bar mitzvah, they have to pay it off. But at this point, this early stage, they're still underage. They're not bar mitzvah, not obligated to mitzvah. So yeah, the property is obligated, but the property is just sort of it's like an ori, like a guarantor, to ensure that the party himself pays it off. That's only the party himself has an obligation. In this case, they're not obligated. So we back off until they become bar mitzvah. They asked me, and these youngsters love b'nei emev and the mitzvah ninu. They're not up to doing mitzvahs at this point. Rav Huna Yeshua Amar, for a different reason. Amar were concerned, sorry, that's the bundles. Maybe the father gave the fellow like a security advance payment. Atvasei, sorry, Atvasei, he let him have a bundle of, maybe there's money sitting on the other side that we don't know of. So until they grow up and figure things out, we just, stay back. Might be not any difference between these two reasons. It could be not differences. Let's say the father had admitted before he's passed away that he owes the money. There's no advance payment, so the second reason wouldn't apply, but the first reason is still applicable. Inami shamtu, or we have another indication that he didn't pay back. They threatened him. They put him in chayra, meis b'shamtu, he died in that state. Clearly he didn't pay it off. Shalachum mitam. In fact, in Eretz Yisrael, they paskin like the second approach, that it's an economic concern. Maybe it was paid off, and therefore, if we have confirmation that it wasn't, then we collect from Yisraelim as well. The Shamtuah meis b'shamti, then in fact the fellow was, forced and he was unwilling and he died in that state. That confirms that it wasn't paid out. And in fact, the halacha is the reason not to pay is because of a concern of advance payment, which wouldn't apply when confirmed otherwise. So bottom line, why wouldn't you collect from Yisraelim? Either because they're not yet obligated to do so, or because we're concerned about some payout that occurred. But either way, we have exceptions to the rule, which is cases where there's ribbis going on and there's ongoing expense incurred, so we pay it out. And likewise, ksubas isha, either because of the mazaini expense or the other pshat was on account of chen. We turn down the base. Tanan. Okay, let's take a look at the Mishnah again, which describes for us the auction process in terms of selling off Yisraelim's property. Tanan, Shema Yisraelim. So we're going to look at the Mishnah and the Brises again in view of the reasoning that we just presented. Either it's the mitzvah issue or the tzarori issue. Shema Yisraelim shleishim yaim. Okay, so the Yisraelim process is 30 days. The Shema Hegdesh, the Hegdesh process is shishim yaim, 60 days. And they announce twice a day. Now let's analyze this again. What are we paying out? Ilim balchay, paying a debtor, person who the father owed money. A debtor. So he's not going to wait for us to get our acts together 30 days. He's not waiting. Mitzois, right? Is he going to listen to us and wait for us? Must be that the lender was a yid. Okay. So the question is, well, if there's a yid lending, that means there's no ribbis. If there's no ribbis, it doesn't really qualify for an exception. It's not one of those exceptions. So why even paying it out? Here comes a new twist. Oh, if the concern is that the father paid it out, so we're speaking that he admitted that he didn't. So according to that approach, that the initial reason why not to collect it, because of concern that perhaps there was already a payout that they don't know of. Okay, so we'll find a case where that doesn't apply. Mukila. He will apply the Mishnah in a case where it's confirmed that it wasn't paid out. The father had admitted before his passing that he didn't pay anything out. So the loan is certainly due and we pay it out. But according to Rav Papa's approach to things, that the reason to hold back from paying is because they're not obligated, they're not bar mitzvah conscious. So the question is, why are we paying it out? Rav Papa, he says like this: one of two options. One way is it's the woman collecting, and the chacham want to be easy with her and pay it out because of the chen concern. Another option, but speaking about a lender who's a guy who is charging the ribbis, right? And that qualifies for an exception because there's incurring ongoing expense. And as per your question, why would he even wait around for 30 days until the auctioneering process is up? He committed to our process. He committed himself to the Jewish litigation process. If he's committed to our process, let him just wait until they become bar mitzvah. Let him wait for them until they become adults. The answer is he's not willing to wait that long. he was willing to cooperate regarding 30 days, but not regarding waiting it out until they become bar mitzvah. Tashmai comes another kasha. We had a brayso yesterday, so they put the property on the market and inform any buyers tashma manas that the intended purpose is to pay off a debt. Right? And again, the same question: who's collecting? Who's the debtor here? Who's the claimer? What are we talking about? We're talking about a guy who lent the father money with interest, mitzayis. Why would he wait? For us, to get the 30-day system going. Yisrael must be that it was a Jewish lender, so why are we paying him out? A guy, I understand. There's interest, right? But by Yisrael, there's no interest. Why we? So again, according to that approach, the concern is that perhaps the father paid it out. We're speaking that it was confirmed to be not so. We're speaking that the father, the chayiv, was moed that he didn't pay it out, so we have to pay it out today. El Rapapu says that the reason not to obligate these Yisraelim is because they're underage. I understand that you pay a ksuba because of the chen concern. Why do you pay a regular debtor? Again, we're speaking about a guy who's charging interest, which qualifies for payout, and he's willing to wait a little bit. Israel is willing to follow our system, wait 30 days. If he's willing to wait, let him wait until they grow older. The answer is not willing to wait that long. He's willing for this and not for that. Rav has a slightly different approach to the hesitation, the reason why we hesitate. And don't pay off debts from Yisraelim's estate. Maybe the father paid it out in full and received a receipt in exchange, which is sort of buried in his files, which they haven't yet discovered. So he takes it a step further. Not just salary, maybe not just bundles, not just security payout. It was actually paid out in full, and there was a sheva receipt. So he asked Rava, really? Are we concerned that a debt was paid out without any tangible reason and any tangible evidence? But now, listen to this Mishnah. So let's say the husband divorced from afar. He's not around and she wants to collect her ksuba. She's nefras, shalei b'fanav, not in his presence. The halacha is she has to swear to confirm that she wasn't paid out. V'amar Rav Acha, Sar Habira, that was his name. He says like this, I'll tell you a story. Ma'asaba, a question was presented to Rabbi Yitzchak Nafchal and Tuchi and Antuchi. But Amar, he says, Leishon Ksuvas Isham Shemchina. He says, the only reason why we even tend to reclaim is because of the chen concern. We don't want to discourage women from getting married, so we make it easier for her to collect, even though the husband's not around. To confront the case and to perhaps dispute it. He's not around still. We take her word for it with a shvua. You can't collect on a debt until the borrower shows up in person. But Rav Nachman disagrees. The same exact system applies to Baal Chayv. He owes you money, disappears. You walk into Bezdin, make a shvua and collect from his assets. Now, how could that be? Maybe it was paid off. Maybe there's a receipt sitting. According to you, Rava was concerned about a receipt. Concerned about a receipt, about a full payout, there as well. How could you collect? Maybe it was paid out. There's a receipt sitting someplace. Amalei says like this. You're right. In theory, Hassan, the reason why we ignore this concern, could have been a time, as the Gemara explained, as per the explanation that we gave. Here, a person, if he knows that he can just disappear and halt any claim against him because he's not, what he's going to do? He's going to borrow $1 million, disappear to China, knowing that nobody can collect it, because until he comes back, you can't collect. We don't want people grabbing other people's money, borrow money, and disappearing. Disappear to a far land. So yeah, in theory, there is a concern about a potential payout, about a shaver, about a receipt, and that's the concern by Yisayim. But by the Ksubas Isha, we make an exception because of Chayin, and by a fellow who's an actual borrower who skipped town, there as well, we don't want to discourage any fraud, and we just proceed. But in this case, where the father borrowed money, he wasn't defrauding anybody, he passed away. So here we have to wait, because perhaps there was a shaver, and perhaps it was paid out. Amar Rava. So Rava concludes. So the halacha is hilchasa ein niskaken l'nichsi yisayim. Okay, so we typically do not collect from Yisayim's property due to our concerns, right? That it was paid out, etc. However, if the father, prior to his passing, instructed them, pay out $1 million, that confirms that the loan is still outstanding. In this case, we pay it out. Now, within this, we have two variations. Sadazu manazu. If he identified the material to be paid out, pay out this field, pay out with this money, so we pay it out without any undue delay. We don't have to appoint a caretaker to look after it. I mean, the father asked, we do it. But suppose the father says, look, pay it out, but he didn't specify from which field, from which bank account, then of course we pay it out, because it's confirmed that it's outstanding. But in this case, we have to establish a caretaker to administer the payout, ensure that they're getting the good end of the deal, the proper value, etc. But on Nardoi disagree. Amr Nardoi, Bekulin is in all these cases we pay it out, and we do appoint a caretaker. So even if he specified this field, we still want a caretaker on the job to ensure that things are done properly. Maybe there was some sort of change of circumstance after the father made that announcement. Maybe it was paid out. Just want to make sure that they're not getting the raw end of the deal. We want to make sure everything's done properly. But even according to them, there's one exception where there's no apotropos needed. Lavad, except Menimtzis Sadash and Shalev was discovered that the field that the father had in possession wasn't his; it was a robbed field. So we have Adam coming forth. Look, that field didn't really belong to him; it was stolen. So in this case, without any further delay, we just return it back to the owner, because we have Adam Dachsuki Sahadi to consider Adam b'shakra as though they're lying. Again, we don't do that. Meaning, we don't question the credibility of the Eidim. If they're testifying that it's a stolen field, give it right back to the owner. Amar Rav Ashi, Hilkach, therefore, is the cookie Mr. Kinan. So therefore, because of all this discussion, Rav, right, we don't typically pay out debts from the Yisayim's properties. The Amar Rav Hilchas Einis Koknas. Rav told us that that's the halacha. But on the other hand, if there's a case where we do pay it out for whatever reason, then we do it only with an apotropos. In this, we follow Nardoi's opinion. Bekul, in all these cases, whether the father instructed in general or in specific, just to make sure things are done smoothly and properly. Except for the case of the stolen field, where there's no reason to hesitate. We don't assume the Edom are uncredible, and therefore we just restore the rightful owner without any additional formalities. Okay, so why would you not collect from Yisayim? We have three reasons. The Yisayim are not bar mitzvah; they're not obligated to do the mitzvah of paying back a debt. By the way, interesting. Rav Chaim Briska brings. You like this. He says, somebody asked him, Adam Gadol, doesn't identify him by name. He says, somebody asked, the halacha is that one is meant to spend a maximum of 20% of his assets for a mitzvah. Okay, so a person needs a pair of tefillin, up to 20% of his assets, etc., etc. So imagine a person borrowed $1 million. Okay, and all he has is $1 million, let's say. Is he obligated to pay the full $1 million? He shouldn't, because if paying up a debt is a mitzvah, so just like any other mitzvah, you're meant to spend a maximum of 20% of your assets. So why would you have to spend more than 20% to fulfill the mitzvah? Priyas b'chayv mitzvah. That was the question that was asked. So Reb Chaim Brisker says, listen to this. Beautiful twist, he says. Big difference. Tefillin, the mitzvah is the tefillin. How much money do you spend towards the tefillin? 20% of your assets. That's the halacha. Right? Because the mitzvah is not the money, mitzvah is the wearing of the tefillin. Now, if there's an expense involved, maximum 20%, a chaimish of his assets. Not so by paying back a debt. Here it's not spending money for the mitzvah. The very essence of the mitzvah is the repayment of the $1 million. So here there's no 20% cap. There's no maximum. You're not spending money for the mitzvah, you're fulfilling the actual mitzvah by paying back the $1 million. That's why you owe the full $1 million. Beautiful. There's another reason actually given as well, because it's really the other person's money. So aside from the mitzvah, you also have the actual obligation. It's that person's money sitting in your bank account, so he deserves it back. Okay, that's one reason. The other reason is because of tzaruri. Maybe the father had sort of deposited some bundles of money as security for payment, which we don't know of. And thirdly, Rabbi goes a step further. Maybe it was paid out in full, and he has a shaver sitting somewhere in his possession, which we have to still find. The exceptions to the rule: when would you pay off a debt? When there's some imminent expense, like ribbis going on, or the mazoinus of the isha, or according to the other pshat, ksubas isha all the time because of chen. We discussed when we just pay it out without the apotropos, when we need an apotropos to look after the proceedings. Okay. All the best to you, and Hatzlach.